welcome back to the fourth and final installment of the Wizards Podcast Guide to Comics, Roger Corman Fantastic Four miniseries. This episode, we bring Adam onto the show to give us his perspective on the movie, as well as we all are going to talk a little bit about our favorite incarnations of the Fantastic Four in comics and movies and so on. There's a lot to be said, really interesting stuff. Enjoy this final segment of the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, and there's a little special extra on the end that you're really going to enjoy. Let's get into it. Greetings, geeks, and welcome to the fourth and final installment of the Wizards Podcast Guide to Comics, Roger Corman Fantastic Four special. Wow, that was a mouthful. Joining us again is Steven Sapellis, who's here, as sort of like my guru of this film and the liaison of this time in history. And as mentioned in one of our other YouTube videos, Adam is here joining us to give us his thoughts on the film, as well as other insight. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to dive into some of our favorite Fantastic Four stories of all time. So, Steven, take it away and, kind of give us a brief recap of what's gone on over the last 3 hours of time.
So you mean about the movie? Or
what we kind of did, just in case anybody's jumping on this for the first time.
So we went through the 1994 unreleased Fantastic Four movie from soup to nuts, from its creation to its never release to our particular takes on it. And yeah, it was a blast.
It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. We even covered the documentary, and what I found out from both of you is the documentary corresponding book that goes along with it that you both have. Now I need to purchase for myself as a Christmas present for myself. So, Adam, welcome to this two guys from Long Island plus a guy from the West Coast expedition here. First, let's just ask you, what are your thoughts about this particular film?
All right. Well, so obviously, I heard about it for years. I remember going into a supermarket and seeing a Comic Scene magazine. They had this little picture of the Thing on it, I think, in just one corner. And I was like, what is this? So I'm flipping through. I'm like, oh, the Fantastic Four is a movie now? So I was tracking it. I was paying attention to it. And then, as the years went on and it didn't come out, I kind of let it go from my brain. And of course, it was one of those things where I heard about the bootlegs when I would go to conventions, but I just never, the curiosity didn't quite reel me in all the way to say I'm going to spend $20 on a bootleg tape, right?
Not like Steven.
Oh my God. I would have given thousands for a bootleg tape.
So I ended up years later when the news got out, it's on this thing called YouTube now. You can watch it. I watched the first 20 minutes. And then life happened, and I stepped away, and that was a decade ago. And I haven't, watched a frame of it since. But I did watch the Doomed documentary, because I always wanted to know the whole behind-the-scenes history. That was fascinating. I watched it multiple times. I enjoy it so much. But so for me, the Fantastic Four movie was a curiosity, but not a have to figure it out. So I didn't watch it all the way until preparation for my appearance on this show. Hey, it's good to be a guest on my own show, I'm not the expert here on this. But this is what I walked away from, right? It's the heavy, heavy reputation and the rumor for so many years, right? It's so bad they wouldn't release it. It was so bad Marvel didn't want you to see it. And obviously we know that was not the reason it was not released. But as I watched it, I was like, you know what? This is a competent film. This is an even tone to this film. Everybody, with the exception of Jay Underwood, who is off the charts. He is a little crazy as Johnny Storm. But everybody else to me is they're putting in decent performances. And I thought, when you're saying take it from the comic page to the screen, they did it. Like, they gave us what
Yeah, that's
we
what we
would
said.
have wanted.
Same
It
thing.
had,
Like,
in my opinion, had it been made, say, 30, 25 years before, we would have been like, what an accomplishment. This is amazing.
right.
Because it was the dawn of CG and all this other stuff. It's kind of like it gets a harsher criticism. So I really enjoyed it. I actually convinced my wife to watch it with me, and she didn't have any negative things to say about it. She was just like, no, that was a film. So that's highly critical of all superhero movies. No criticism of this film.
I mean, Steven and I said it, but it's one of those things where it's good enough that they could have released it as a made-for-TV movie.
Yes.
Sure.
If it wasn't going to get a theatrical release, I mean, it could have easily been thrown at a VOD or made-for-TV movie or miniseries type of a thing they could have done, at some point. But who knows? Whatever. It's all about money sometimes. So you saw the entirety of the documentary before you watched the film.
Yeah.
What did you find more interesting? The actual behind the scenes of what really went on, or the movie itself?
I think for me, I really do enjoy the documentary a little bit more. It's a little bit more dynamic than the movie. Like the movie, like the one thing my wife did say, she's like, that Thing costume is great. I'm like, it is. It's awesome. So like there are these high points of the movie where you're just like, wow, I love whenever this is happening. But like overall, it feels a little slow in some parts, but then it gets wacky, and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous and funny. My favorite part is when the jeweler is like, pick a hand, and smacks that guy. Like that's comedy. That's great. So I would watch Doomed again before I went back to watch the movie again. I feel like I've seen it, I get it, but I don't need to like nitpick every detail of this movie. And I feel like I want to hear more behind the scenes. That's why your coverage of reading every book ever written, every magazine article, every little detail that was ever released, like that's what I want to know. So that's why this series is so exciting to me. I was like, I don't want to participate. I want it to be a surprise for me as I listen all the way through.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense. I also was wondering, I wonder if there was deleted scenes as well. Like, there had to have been something they cut out of the script that would have been interesting to have in there, because, I mean, again, this is not necessarily would have been the final cut if the film was actually going to have been released. It was, one dub of one cut. Who knows what version of it is? People, when they do editing, do 15 passes of a movie to make changes and so on and so forth. So I'm always curious, like, what else could have been there? And is the film burned? Is it in an archive somewhere? That's really fascinating to me,
Yeah, in terms of deleted scenes, in the book Forsaken, there's an interview with Glenn Garland, and I think that very little that was shot did not end up in the movie.
Okay.
And I mean, that's just kind of the Roger Corman school of filmmaking. You got to get it to 90 minutes no matter what.
Right.
You got to use everything you have. And there's that scene when Ben transitions back to the Thing. He's in that alleyway, and they're using
he grows
shots,
taller.
Yes, but they're using shots from like the post rocket ship crash transformation. You see those same shots over and over again. So they used what they had. It seems like.
That's cool. That's interesting. Okay, good to know.
Now,
So go ahead.
The question I had as I'm watching it though is the jeweler just wanted the crystal because it was a big jewel, right? Like he didn't have any other designs on it. He's like, I can't use this for something. I just steal jewels, so
Yes.
I want it, right?
Yes.
Okay. But then where did the jewel come from that Reed, and Victor were using? Like initially, the real jewel before it was swapped out. Like where did that come from? That was the part I didn't find the details on, if they were there.
We did this a lot when we talked about it. We tried to look for these logic holes. I just think you gotta go with it sometimes in this movie.
It ended up on the cutting room floor or in the script, and they said, "Well,
Michael."
Exactly. Yeah.
So
they got you there. They
did.
got you to space. That's all that it really took.
Got you to space.
They got you to space. They crashed.
So now let's talk about some of our favorite Fantastic Four stories of all time. And Stephen, as our guest and our, liaison of Fantastic Four and our most knowledgeable Fantastic Four friend, you go first.
So it's funny because Adam has the comic right behind him, the exact comic that was my first comic. It was Fantastic Four 374, which I'd heard about from kids in middle school, that there was a new Fantastic Four team that was Spider-Man, the Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine. And that kind of drew me in. I was thinking, oh, that sounds really cool. And then what really made me a diehard Fantastic Four fan was Fantastic Four 381, which was the death of Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. And this particular issue, I missed it when it was on stands because it was such a hot issue that it sold out immediately. So I had to go to comic book conventions on Long Island. I ended up at one at either it was Fun Zone or Discovery Zone. It was in the back room there. And you know when you were a kid and you had, whatever you had, $10 to $20 to go to the comic book convention. I had $10. I walk in, I see it on the shelf, and I say, "How much for this?" And she said $10. And there was every dollar I had to spend at that convention. And in 2 minutes, I was done. I just had to walk around with my friends as they got their particular issues. But basically, after that issue, I became, I started to subscribe to every issue. And yeah, here's one of the first subscription issues that I got. And what they did was they let Reed Richards be dead for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought in replacement members. They brought in Ant-Man. They had this whole storyline where Franklin Richards comes from the future.
Was that Fantastic Force? He was part of that team?
It was like Fantastic 3 for a while, and then they started to... it was still called Fantastic Four, culminating in 400, which has like kind of a little funeral for Reed Richards.
Oh.
Kind of a funeral for a friend.
If you will.
Thing, if you will. And so, yeah, and what I really liked about that storyline, and I had said in the first episode that it was Ralph Macchio storyline. He was the editor. Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan did the pencils and the stories. And I like that they put Sue in the lead. Sue became the de facto leader of the team, and I thought that was a really cool dynamic. This is also the era when Sue had this crazy suit.
Yeah.
Which, take it or leave it, but I thought it was great. I was in middle school. And yeah, so that was when I was most deep into Fantastic Four, which coincided with the release to non-release of the actual movie. But in terms of what's the best Fantastic Four storyline, so I've got this Fireside book, this 1970s series. I don't think it gets any better than the Galactus storyline, which introduced Silver Surfer. I think if you put comic book stories on like the Mount Rushmore, I'd put that up there with Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, all those. And it was also recreated in Marvel's number 3.
That's what I was gonna say. That interpretation, I think, just heightens that story even more. Just the
it's beautiful. That's like the most. Yeah. It's such a beautiful rendition of that. But yeah, if you there we go. I think this is the premier collaboration between Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. As everyone knows, Stan Lee came to Jack Kirby with a concept, and Jack Kirby just invented the Silver Surfer out of thin air. It just goes to show the way they worked and what came out of the Marvel method.
Yeah, Steven, you might be interested to know, in the podcast realm, there was an audio drama called Marvels. I don't know if you listened to it. I think it was on Stitcher Premium, so you probably couldn't just find it right now. But what it was like, what was Ben Urich doing during Marvels and the aftermath of the Galactus saga? And everybody like on the ground believing it was a hoax. And it's like all these interviews, like people try to get an interview with The Thing and Sue and Johnny and all this stuff and all these reporters. So it's a really interesting take on it's kind of like what was going on even more ground level in the Marvel's universe, So.
That sounds amazing. That sounds incredible. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to mention. This is just one of those oddballs. And I know, Adam, you're a big fan of this series. Fantastic Four 2099. Not great, but man, this hologram, tinfoil, whatever the hell cover is a lot of fun. So that's, when I talk about Fantastic Four, when I think about Fantastic Four, that run from like 93 to 95 is my favorite. So yeah, that's where I stand with the team.
So I'm going to jump in 'cause I have to jump off, and I'm going to make Adam the host. This way he can end it when it's done. But I only have really, I love most of the entire Hickman run. Was kind of my favorites. Most of the stuff that I've read of Fantastic Four was all Hickman stuff. But Fantastic Four number 600 is really my favorite. It's somewhere in my house. I will put a picture up in the video and we'll share it. But honestly, one of my favorite stories of recently is Secret Wars 2, because it really revolves around the Fantastic Four, and Doctor Doom basically reinvents the universe and puts all the different multiverses of Marvel on one planet, and kind of like a battle world sort of a thing. And Sue is married to him, and his their children are kind of like soldiers of Doom. But then different versions of Reed come to this Secret Wars battle world and save everybody. But the way to fix the universe is the Fantastic Four have to disappear and leave forever, and they go off into other realms, and now they're making other universes. And it's a really cool story. Like, people don't necessarily love it that much. I really love that.
Yeah, Michael,
Wars
this was one of my attempts to get back into modern comics. I bought the first 5 issues. I hated each one more than I read.
Really?
It's been a lead weight in my long box for years. I'm just like, will somebody please take these? Like, if anybody out there wants them, you can have my Secret Wars comics. Michael, if you want extra copies, I could not get into it. It sounded so cool, and then it wasn't. And so I was so disappointed.
But the thing is, there's a lot of tie-in books, and I was buying all the tie-ins as well, and that really kind of sewed it all together. But then the last 2 issues are fantastic, unfortunately.
I was going to say, I should have stayed to the end. But yeah, those tie-in issues with the Secret Wars, like Mattel card, like action figure covers, those were awesome. I loved that. Now, that would have been a variant I should have bought,
That's okay. So listen, anyway, fellas, I have to run. I have a boatload of editing to do, and I got to dive back into my computer to finish doing that. But Adam, you and Steven can finish, your stuff that is your favorite Fantastic Four stories, and then bring us home. And then this journey of the Fantastic Four Roger Corman project will be over, and then we'll go into something new. Maybe we're gonna go into Meteor Man. Maybe we'll go into my favorite, Blank Man. And Steven also mentioned today to me, maybe we'll talk about Steel at some point. So let's see what happens.
Well, I was watching it. It's something special.
It's something special. All right, fellas.
Well, off you go into the negative zone.
All right, bye. I will tell you right now, I have not seen the part where Adam gives his thoughts, because I had to leave early during this Zoom call. So I'm going to be as surprised as you are when I see what has to be said.
All right. Well, how about that? Steven, I came here as a guest on your 4-part series. I've been promoted to host. I'm very excited.
Well, you are a herald of Michael now.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I guess I'll get into my experience with the Fantastic Four here. My initial exposure was in the Marvel Jumbo Fun Book, which I think they used to release these as like individual magazines, and then they collected them all in one giant book. And I got this at a garage sale. I was like 3 or 4. Marvel Jumbo Fun Book, and it had a section in here that was devoted to the Fantastic Four. Okay, so it says here, sorry, I had it bookmarked initially, but it says focus on the Fantastic Four. You can see my wonderful color jobs there.
That's great.
Sue. But it has lots of different activities, for all to enjoy. So you can have draw the crags of rocks on the thing. If you want to do that. But there's another in particular kind of cool deal here. Big Ben's True or False. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Let me see if I can pose you here.
Okay.
So this is what it's asking, all true or false questions.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a softball. Ben Grimm was struck by cosmic rays. True or false?
True.
Okay. Now here's one. Hulk and Thing fought the FF. So Hulk and Thing fought the Fantastic Four.
I would say that's false.
That is false, at least according to what is filled out here. Let's see.
As of that time period, too,
Yes,
we'll say. Lord knows what's happened since then.
Ben is godfather to Franklin Richards.
That is true.
Yes.
Okay.
And here's a fun one. Once married to Thundra.
Wait, is that a true or a false?
That is actually a false in this case.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And, last one here. His full name is Benjamin H. Grimm.
That's false.
What is
That's
it?
false. Benjamin J. Grimm.
There you go. There you go.
Come on.
We're having fun here. So, but that obviously not a story, not a Fantastic Four tale. Now, I have behind me here some issues featuring She-Hulk when she joined the team. Personally, I don't have an interest in the Fantastic Four. Really, the only issue I bought was the same one you did, Steven. So
it was a great cover. That cover.
And then I started going in the back issue bins, and the only ones that ever interested me, I was like, She-Hulk was on the team? She-Hulk is punching the Thing in the face and knocking him through the wall. Like, there was lots of fun stuff. And I've gone back and read her stuff as an Avenger. Not interested. John Byrne, She-Hulk, Fantastic Four. That's how I like it. But as far as actual Fantastic Four stories, Earth X by Alex Ross and what was his, Jim Kruger? Is that his name? I got to look this up here. Give him his due. Yeah, Jim Kruger. Mm-hmm. So this is like a full series. They did like Earth X, they did Universe X, they did Paradise X. It was very long, and it was kind of an alternate history future, what could be for the Marvel Universe. And in this, it tells the story of an older, white hair, Sue and Reed, and everybody's still the Fantastic Four, but Franklin has joined the team, and they end up in this battle where Doom and Namor have teamed up, and Doom's got Namor all riled up, right? He's trying to mess up the world powers so that he can take over. And so in this fight, Namor breaks Johnny's neck. Then Franklin gets so angry, he sets half of Namor's body on fire. He just says, I wish that you would burn forever. There will never stop. So literally, like, half of his body is just on fire forever for the whole series. Like,
oh my.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's intense. And then Sue, wanting revenge for Johnny's death, goes after Doom, and he had like this bomb in his armor, and it malfunctions and kills both of them. So now it's just Reed and Franklin and Ben. And so like Reed just disappears. He lives in Latveria in Doom's castle. He wears Doom's armor. He's got this long beard and white hair. And he's just like, he lives amongst the Doom bots and a hologram of Sue. He just stares longingly at, and he's trying to figure out, number one, all his most beloved is dead. But also, like, they had set up these towers that they thought were going to be a free energy source for the world. And now everybody in the world has superpowers in this universe. And it's like creating a lot of chaos. So he thinks it might have been his fault. Maybe the energy source got out through a mishap and caused problems. So he goes throughout the whole story. It's really interesting. But the reason I love it is it has the best use of his stretching abilities, in my opinion. And you can tell me if this ever came up in the regular series.
Okay.
But at one point, the Inhumans, Black Bolt, Medusa, everybody come to him, and they say the Terrigen mists were actually released on Earth. So there are a whole bunch of Inhumans, in addition to all these other mutants and other people who have gotten powers. We need you to help us find who the Inhumans are. So he stretches his brain to the same size and shape of Professor Xavier so he can access the telepathic abilities, and puts on Cerebro, and then he uses it to find Inhumans.
Okay. See, maybe it's happened. I've never heard of that before. That's crazy.
It's awesome. And then, like, the best part is at the very end, after like all these trials and all these different things they go throughout the series for years, they eventually make it so he chops off his arm. And because his body is malleable, Alicia sculpts Sue out of his arm, and through this other character's abilities, they're able to imbue her soul back. They bring her soul back and put it into the body, and Reed and Sue are reunited.
That's an epic story.
It's been fantastic. Well, obviously.
I've got to check that out. I didn't even know that existed. That's crazy.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite Fantastic Four story of all time.
Wow, that's intense. That's really intense.
So this is my last question for you, Stephen, as we wrap up this whole series and we're talking about the Fantastic Four. What is, would you say, the most extreme, maybe with the movie, maybe with something else, the most extreme measure you've taken as a fan of the Fantastic Four?
You
How's
mean besides dedicating my life for 4 years to tracking down a copy of the bootleg? That was probably the most extreme thing I've done. Oh, I think this came up on the last podcast. When the 2005 Fantastic Four movie came out, I again got super excited because I couldn't wait to see my favorite team on the big screen. And I was working. I had a job. I was an adult who graduated college. And I basically took a very long lunch break, as in like a 4-hour lunch break, and waited in line at a New York comic book store to meet the cast of the Fantastic Four and get them to sign my poster.
Wow.
And it was a total like kind of ruse. And they basically they said all like 5 cast members would be there, the Fantastic Four plus Julian McMahon, who played Dr. Doom. And then you get there and they're like, well, we didn't say all 5 at the same time. And so Jessica Alba had gone.
Of course. She got me the first one out of there.
Yes. And then Johan Griffith and Julian McMahon were doing press in the back. And so I got to meet Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans, which was still pretty cool.
I would say, ultimately, of that cast, those are the 2 guys you want to meet, right? Because Michael Chiklis loved the Thing so much. And Chris Evans, obviously, his legacy, beyond that. So that's great.
Yeah. And so Michael Chiklis was cool. I talked to him about the Three Stooges movie where he played Curly. And then Chris Evans was like talking to someone, and then he looks at me and goes, hey, what's up? And then he signed my poster. And and off we went. I'm trying to think of other things I've done for my love of the Fan Four. It's a really good question.
I mean, I would say, that's a pretty good one. At least, meeting the crew there, getting to know some of the cast.
You know what was one thing, and this is kind of an aside, but so it was 2007. The Silver Surfer movie had just come out, and I hated it. I hated it so much. And at the time, I had sold a show with my friends, and we were walking down a street in Los Angeles, and from a distance, a very long distance, I saw 2 old men walking towards us, and I said, "Oh my God, that's Stan Lee!" So one of the old guys was Stan Lee, and it just so happened that one of the people I was walking with, who was my manager at the time, he had worked with Stan Lee in the past, and he said to me, "Do you want to meet him?" And I said, yes, like my whole life. And so we walked up there, and he introduced us to Stan Lee. And Stan Lee was walking with another old guy, and he said, "Oh, this is my cousin Mel Stewart. He directed Willy Wonka." And so I not only got to meet Stan Lee, but I got to meet the director of Willy Wonka. And I would say the entire time he was talking to me and like kind of being so nice and so gracious, in my head I wanted to say, "You deserve better than that." Sorry, "You deserve better than that crappy Silver Surfer movie." And my brain was just like screaming it at me just to say this to him. Say that he deserved better. Tell him how great that Galactus storyline was. And I fought every fiber of my being to not say a negative thing about the Silver Surfer movie. So that was, as a diehard Fantastic Four fan, that was one weird situation I found myself in.
Well, that's a fantastic way, to meet the creator of the Fantastic Four just walking down the street. That's because you would imagine that would happen in one of the comics, right? Stan's just walking down the street, having a conversation. They run into him. So I will say, for me, obviously, I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan, but one thing that did happen in high school, I had a band, and we wrote music, we had a great time. And when that ended, I was like, I want to come up with a new concept for a band. I never put it into action, but I wrote a lot of songs for it, and it was going to be a comic book themed band. So all the songs, I wrote a song about Resurrection Man and the Ray and the Hulk and all this stuff. But one song I wrote, which was probably my favorite song I've written outside of my Madman song that I've shared in the past, is a song called Invisible that's about Reed and Sue's relationship. So what I will do is I'll send that to you so you can take a listen, and we'll tack it on to this episode for anybody who's interested. You want a little love ballad about Reed and Sue.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
As we go into this. Clearly, I think this is the best adaptation of the Fantastic Four, best film adaptation. They've tried several times. They can't get it right. Yeah. It seems like now it's going into the MCU in some capacity. What would be your ideal version of seeing the Fantastic Four in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, I mean, I guess the way I look at it is that if you try to do the origin from the very beginning, like the way it was originally planned, it's not going to work. Try to beat the commies into space. That's just not going to work anymore. But there's so much cosmic stuff that has happened at this point in the MCU that I totally see, Reed being contracted to go do some investigation and bringing along everybody that has various skills involved. It's not just the girlfriend and her little brother and his best buddy from college. Like, there's a reason everybody would be there. They're part of a unit that has done, this work, to help people, whatever, make sure a portal never opens up again over New York or whatever it is. And then they maybe open it on accident and travel through, and then they get the cosmic rays. Like, that's how I can see like the origin working. And then I like the idea of, you because we, like you say, we've seen it so many times. So to me, like, make a few tweaks like the MCU does. They always make little improvements here and there, but they work, and they feel like they can tie into the mythology we're already used to. So I would be totally okay, because I'm not so precious. But number one, after that first film, She-Hulk is getting made on Disney Plus. Eventually you put her onto the team. That's all I'm saying. Get She-Hulk in a Fantastic Four costume, trading banter with Ben or whatever's going to happen, and I'll be happy.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Stephen, for taking us on this journey. I mean, man, I'm so excited for everybody that has gotten a chance to listen to this. And maybe, you saw the documentary, but this went beyond even the documentary, just like Stephen has spent his life in study of all of this. So again, thank you. Thank you for always being a cool part of our Wizards family here. And so with that, we want to invite you all, make sure if you're not subscribed at this point, subscribe, because this is the place to be. So much more fun comics content, go into the past, giving you that 90s perspective. And of course, check us out on Twitter at Wizards Comics, on Instagram at Wizards_comics. And we will always have something to share. And if you want to be a part of it, reach out to us. Maybe you got something you want to say about the Fantastic Four movie. Maybe you're the son or daughter of one of the crew members. Comment below. Tell us what you know, because we'd love to hear it. Come on, Sue, we'll take a trip to space. We're gonna be exposed to cosmic rays. Is it just me, or baby, do you feel strange too? Genetic codes mutating, can it be true? The world can't seem to see you anymore. You've gone invisible. Can always find those eyes of yours. You're not invisible, not to me. Feeling scared and like you wanna hide. I'll wrap my arms around you a million times. I can't understand how, baby, they can see right through you. When
when you're so deep in, you look so good and blue. The world can't seem to see you anymore. You've gone invisible. Yeah. But I can always find those eyes of yours. You're not invisible. Not to be. Hey, blue eyes, looks like there's bigger problems, threatening galaxies and worlds beyond. Stretching myself thin just to keep it together. Our destinies are changing now and forever. The world can't seem to see you anymore. You've gone invisible. Yeah. But I can always find those eyes of yours. You're not invisible. No, no. Well, those eyes, that smile, that hair, it's all I need. It's all I need. The world can't seem to see you anymore. You've gone invisible. Yeah. But I can always find those eyes of yours. You're not invisible. Not to me.
Wow. And that was the final episode of our Fantastic Four miniseries. As always, thank you so much for listening, watching, and enjoying the Wizards podcast. You can find us at Wizards_comics on Instagram. You can find us on our TeePublic store or here on YouTube at Wizards Podcast. We've got a lot of great stuff coming in the next couple of weeks and months. 2021, we've got some big plans. We're promoting our new Patreon, which we're working out all the details for, but we'll be dropping that information soon. We've got tons of mini episodes, special guests, and we're going to work on some really cool things for all you fans out there for watching our show and listening to our show and enjoying this journey through Wizard Magazine as we have as well. As always, don't forget to keep your books bagged and boarded. Thanks for watching.
We're getting a call from the negative zone.
Hello, Michael. Yep, we got it. We're recording right now, so this is part of the show.
This is Patreon content. We'll just cut this out.
Thank you, Michael. Bye. All right. Back to the neutral zone.
Yes, we're back. So
you can find us at Wizards Comics on Instagram. Nope. You can find us at Wizards Podcast on Twitter, at Wizards_.
And until next time, keep your books bagged and boarded.